Located in Pasadena, California, is a department store from the 1940s. This building was built in 1947, originally designed for Bullocks Pasadena. Bullock's was a chain of department stores with a prominent retail presence in Southern California. They were known for their upscale reputation and providing a luxurious shopping experience in beautifully designed buildings. Today, the building is home to Macy's, and much of the exterior and the interior has been preserved. The building was designed by architects Welton Beckett and Walter Werdman in the late modern style. Not only did they design the exterior of this building, but they actually oversaw all aspects of the store, including the interior work down to the wallpaper and display cases. Every inch of this place was designed with attention to detail. The architects worked with interior designer Raymond C. Dexter, and together they created 61 departments. And each room in this building had its own look and finishes which complemented the items they sold. The overall appearance of the store was created intentionally with the neighborhood and culture of the time in mind. This is why the atmosphere of the store is meant to feel like a home. Bullocks Pasadena was pretty unique for its time for many reasons. It was not located in a downtown area, it was built right by a residential neighborhood. It was meant to appeal to people who would arrive in their car, and because of this, they originally built a parking lot that took up 6 acres. Pasadena, being known as the City of Roses, and also for the Rose Parade for over 100 years, is truly a beautiful place, filled with people who appreciate the gardens in the city. So this is why Ruth Shellhorn, who was a landscape architect, worked in creating the beautiful landscape for Bullocks Pasadena. The Los Angeles Conservancy describes it best. The architects created a lush landscape from which the massive building arose like an island. Ruth Shellhorn was later on hired by Walt Disney to work on the landscape of Disneyland. Her contribution to the park is still here today. She worked on creating pedestrian pathways and connecting much of the themed areas in the park. Bullocks Pasadena stands out as an incredible representation of a post-World War II department store meticulously crafted for Pasadena residents, especially during this time in which Pasadena was viewed as the suburban dream in Southern California. Pasadena Heritage, which is a nonprofit dedicated to preserving and protecting the city's architecture and history, often gives tours of the architectural gems in the city. I went on one of their tours of Bullocks Pasadena, and it really is a wonderful place, and I'll be talking about all the rooms inside in a bit. South Lake Avenue, which is where the store is located, was originally just a residential area. With the construction of Bullocks Pasadena, the neighborhood eventually became filled with several shops and restaurants. This department store really is important to the city, especially because of how it represented and celebrated the culture of Pasadena. Bullocks Pasadena closed its doors in the early 1990s. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1996. The 6-acre parking lot has been developed into a new shopping center, and thankfully, because of Pasadena heritage and passionate preservationists, the new shopping center, which was built in the 2000s, didn't obstruct the view or destroy the beautiful building of Bullocks Pasadena. This is also during the time Macy's moved into the building. And now let's enter Macy's and take a step back in time and appreciate the design of the past that's still here today. The department store has several different entrances, and this was intentionally designed so men and women can enter the store in different departments. Let's walk into the cosmetics department first. There's so much to look at. The wallpaper, flooring, and fixtures are all original. The wallpaper was hand-painted by Annette Honeywell, and this overall department was built with displays in mind. So if you notice these little sections in the wall, these were meant to display elegant perfume bottles, and they even light up. And as you look up, you'll see these beautiful original lighting fixtures. If you look past the overwhelming amount of inventory and modern day displays, you really can appreciate the interior of this place. The store and departments are incredibly beautiful. The linoleum flooring is original. Sometime in the 1970s, I believe, they wanted to expand the cosmetics department, so a section of the room was pushed out. And they actually preserved the wallpaper and carefully reinstalled it in the expanded section. They also wanted to keep the original linoleum flooring from the 1940s, but since this was the 70s, they didn't have any available. Well, they realized in the staff break room, the floor was the same as the floor in the cosmetics department, so they transferred it over into the newly expanded section of the cosmetics department to keep the cohesive design all around. And here are some comparison photos, and you can see that much of the overall design is still here. And now let's enter the men's department, which has its own entrance. The cosmetics department was designed with elegance and feminine details in mind, whereas the men's department had a more masculine design approach. So even the design and materials used are completely different from the women's department. And throughout the whole store you'll find different wood that was imported from all around the world, as well as historic artifacts that are on display. As mentioned earlier, the store was built next to a residential neighborhood. Much of the concept of the store was to feel like a home. The layout and concept of Bullocks Pasadena actually impacted a lot of store designs throughout the whole country. This section is really interesting to me. I wonder what it used to be, maybe a telephone room, but it could have just been a storage closet. And if you look up here, you'll find original murals and of course, more vintage fixtures. I love seeing all the different materials they used in these rooms. Even the floor in the men's section is different. And I just can't get enough of this store. The vintage artifacts have brief descriptions about them, like this tapestry on display next to the elevators, and here's a vintage photograph of the area. Something I learned while I was on my tour was that the artwork on this tapestry actually illustrated a naked person, but Bullock's didn't want that on display in their department store, so they cropped it out, but you can still see an arm at the edge of it. Some of these historic artifacts are in their original location and some have been moved around. Bullocks Pasadena already was a piece of artwork itself, but they also had art on display all around. I really like the curves on the ceiling in this section of the store. And then I came across a vintage photograph which actually captured this room. And these are all the original wooden Otis elevators. There's 3 floors in this department store, and the mirrors above the elevator doors on each floor has different artwork on them. We just walked through the middle floor, and as you enter these elevators, it really does feel like you're stepping back in time, even though I already said that when we entered the building, but I don't know, just being in here feels really special to me. I just love all the details inside and outside the elevator. And here we are on the upper floor, and we have more lovely artifacts on display. And as you walk past the sea of sofas, you will enter what used to be the Bullock's tea room. And yes, there was a tea room in the department store. It was called the Coral Room. And here are the curves on the ceiling, and even though some of the rooms look like the modern day department store, you can still see past that and appreciate these curves around the building and what remains from that era. The outdoor patio was a part of the tea room. You would be outside and see these beautiful mountains and have a great view of Pasadena. Of course, more buildings have been built ever since then, so the view isn't the same, but it's still beautiful. Also, on the upper floor is the children's barbershop. It's no longer in use, but it's been preserved. Here is more of the original linoleum flooring, and photographs on display of children getting their haircut through the years. And it's just a really charming little room. I'm glad they kept it. It's sort of like a little museum now. The text on the window reads, "Serving the children of Pasadena and its surrounding communities, the children's hairstyling salon originally opened in 1947. The salon was initially part of the children's toy department, now the furniture gallery. Saul Blumen and Dora Longsworth were the 2 longtime hairstylists of the salon. After Saul retired in the mid-80s, Dora continued on as the sole hairstylist until her retirement in early 2019. And as you walk through the children's barbershop, you enter a themed room which plays into some design elements of a ship. The exterior of the building of Bullocks Pasadena sort of resembles a ship. You can also see this design style in some streamlined buildings from the 1930s and 40s. I love the little displays, and look at all this wood, and there's all these little rooms and doors. I'm not sure what all of them used to be, but I love that they're still here. When you look up at the ceiling in the children's department, you'll see a map of the world. And if you look closely, you'll find a star on the map of where we are, and it says Bullocks Pasadena. I think we should just take a minute to appreciate how incredible this room is. All the lighting fixtures are original to the room, and I love the way you're sort of transported into this room as you walk past the barbershop. And now we're gonna go back to the elevator, onto the lower floor. And we just gotta appreciate these elevators one more time. And once you walk through this floor, you'll find some cool stuff on display. The fountain court used to be on this level, and here's the section where the fountain was. It's definitely not as exciting, but you can still see the sort of layout is still here. And let's walk past some of these vintage pieces to go to the bathroom. On the way to the bathroom, you'll find the bust of Mr. Bullocks and the concept art of the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful building. There's also portraits hanging on the wall in here, and just some more history on Bullocks Pasadena. Oh yeah, and furniture too. One thing that I love is the miniature model of the first Bullocks delivery wagon. Also, there's framed photographs of the Rose Parade floats of Macy's. They also have on display a photo of the Bullocks Pasadena float from the 1980s. I even checked out the bathrooms in case there was anything cool and vintage left inside, but there wasn't. On this floor, there's a cabinet of some vintage photos and items on display that were from Bullocks. It's sort of fun to look at these photos and walk around the store to find a spot where the photo was taken and see what it looks like today. There's a photo here of the Bullocks Pasadena signage outside one of the entrances, and if you look at it today, there's marks on the rocks of where the sign used to be. It's interesting to see the evolution of the store and the almost like clashing of the old with the new. There's also stairs you can take, and as you walk through the floors, there's more historic artwork on display. This piece with the peacocks is one of my favorites. It's so large and I love seeing it as you walk up or down the stairs. And we're back to the elevators. Now we're going to go down to the middle floor. We started out with the middle floor and we're going to end it with the middle floor. And now it's dark outside, and I also really like how the rocks outside sort of glitter. It's hard to tell in the videos, but it does. I want to say it really is a wonderful experience to shop here even today. And I'm glad it's still a department store, and that it's still accessible to the public. A lot of times, historic buildings aren't really accessible. You can still enter this department store, you don't have to go on a tour, you can actually shop here and sort of feel like you're in a different time. Fortunately, a lot has been preserved, although some sections have been updated, but I really love it here and I really recommend just stopping in and strolling along all 3 floors in this department store. And then you can grab a drink or some food outside in one of the shops on Lake Avenue. I highly recommend walking over to Pie and Burger afterwards, which is a diner from the 1960s. And here's a view of the patio of the tea room from outside the building. I try to document as much as I can with historic places and signage in our cities. If you're not following me on Instagram, I post the most there, and this is my first full-length YouTube video showcasing a historic place. I also work with historic businesses to create products inspired by their signage and architecture. You can check it out at merchmotel.com. And next time you're in Pasadena, make sure to check out the Bullock's department store and make new memories of an experience that no longer exists. It's really a time capsule in this city, and it's a significant place to many residents of Pasadena who appreciate and remember this wonderful shopping experience. I always enjoy hearing stories people tell of their time while shopping at Bullock's. I'd love to read yours in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. And I have a lot of leftover footage of the elevators because I just love it so much, so I'm just going to play those while this video ends. Enjoy the rest of Bullocks Pasadena.